Christian Chivu has had his first official press conference as intercoach, and today we're going to go through it together because he was accompanied by Beppe Marotta. It was a bit of a weird press conference because it wasn't really like his introduction press conference on his own. It was kind of his intro and previewing the Monterrey game. There was some Mexican journalists. It was a bit of a mixture. It wasn't the usual welcome first press conference of a coach where there's an hour long just back and forth questions, but it's still a nice little insight into Christian Chivu, his way of communication, and what to expect in the coming days. So let's go through it, guys. Before we get into it, of course, leave a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and let me say straight away, and this is not coming from a place of being salty against Simone Inzaghi or anything, but Christian Chivu's press conferences already an improvement. You guys may know on this channel, I barely ever really covered Simone Inzaghi's press conferences because one, I found them quite boring. He's a lovely guy, very classy, very rarely says a bad word about anyone, but that also leads to the press conferences being boring. And his communication style, even in Italian, because I speak Italian, it was kind of like, he repeated a lot of the same thing, io penso che, and all this, it wasn't the most eloquent way of speaking Italian as well. Whereas with Chivu, even though Italian is not his first language, his general way of speaking, his kind of demeanor, his confidence, and he can also speak English like he showed in this press conference very fluently. It just adds a little bit more. And I feel like he's got more to say, like he's a little bit more open. Inzaghi definitely gave the media pretty much nothing. But I feel like Christian Chivu, in personality style, actually would quite say he's quite similar to Inzaghi. He's, not over the top with anything. He's quite, he can control his emotions, although we saw with Inzaghi on the bench side, he did let go a lot of times. But he's not giving us a Mourinho sound bites for sure. But it was an interesting press conferences, and his focus today was on Interismo. I think the word Interismo was said about 3 or 4 times by him and Beppe Marotta today. Inter spirit and courage. Let's take this club to the top. So again, Beppe Marotta, when he was introducing him, what he said was the bar will remain. The aim is to keep the bar as high as it's been the last few years, competing for all titles. So again, he said it when we signed him. He said it again. That has to be backed up in the transfer window. And if things don't go to plan, they have to admit the mistakes that they make, because they can't keep saying that every season and not deliver the squad for the coach as well. And I'm talking about the directors and the whole staff behind the coach, above the coach. And then he also once again reiterated that after Inzaghi left, Chivu is the guy. It took 24 hours for them to choose Chivu, which again, the usual Marotta kind of politician, towing the line and lying basically, because we all know, as we said, they wanted Fabregas. There was other names out there. Whether they decided Chivu in 24 hours, that's very, 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 very doubtful now from all the stuff that we know. But anyway, moving on to Chivu's press conference. The first question was, have you now realized you're the coach of the Inter first team? It was like, of course, I was ready. So in a way, I was already coach of the Inter team, but in the youth sector. And the club gives you something special. The sense of responsibility is great. The same as when I came here as a player. I've been here 13 years with a little pause in between, but I've always been here. That's, he's really pushing that Interismo to him. And of course, even to us doubting fans of disappointment, is definitely tugging at the heartstrings, and we all definitely want him to succeed. And hopefully all this experience at Inter helps him to succeed. They also asked him, have you talked to any of your troubled teammates? And he mentioned that there's the group chat that still goes on. That's still active. He had wishes coming in from all those guys in there. But then he also said, Maicon was at the training the other day or yesterday, I think it was. We spoke about the past. We're a good group. I enjoyed seeing Maicon. I saw the messages from everyone. Having the support and trust makes me happy to be here. And I wonder if any of those guys end up being part of the staff too. There was talk of Water Samuel, which then end up happening. But, watch this space for sure. Now, this was a good question. What courage did Inter show in choosing you? And he said, there it is. We've gone back to our roots, Interismo. Marotta has been here for a while. He knows what it takes. I've always had this word in mind. It means pride and loyalty. Pride and loyalty. I love that. But one of the best teams in Europe, we need to show it on the field. You can win and lose in football when things are going well. The club finds it more straightforward. And he did go back a few times on the kind of, the Champions League loss, of course, is a big result, big negative on the players. And he does mention how he's going to have to do some work mentally to get these players back on track to compete again. And yeah, that was the next question. How important will it be to start well quickly, in terms of this Club World Cup, which I'm still personally not too excited about still. I'm seeing some of the early games, the Inter Miami game seemed like it was an absolute ball fest. And then I saw Bayern Munich against Auckland 10-0. They're looking like a lot of very pre-season match feel at the moment, but maybe it gets better as the competition goes on. But yeah, he said the project is both new and familiar. We need to carry on what's been done again, keeping the bar where it's been. Inter requires this kind of mindset. Again, I love it that he's saying this. That means that, it's been agreed with the club, but he has to be backed as well. The bar has been raised in recent years, and we have to keep it there. There it is. It's about having self-belief and confidence and working well with both the club and the team. And of course, as I said, the squad, you need to be given the squad to do that. How are you preparing for this competition? We must honor this competition. There are 32 teams from all over the world, and it's a unique moment for global football. Every team here will want to give their all. We're at the tail end of the season, but we're here to do our very best. It seems like here it changes to Italian, even though it's supposed to be in English. But anyway, we'll continue anyway. Yeah, he knows Inter. They asked him, how much does it help you knowing or being at Inter such a long time? He says, I know everything about Inter. I even spent a lot of time with Inzaghi when I was training the under-19. I know a lot of the boys. For me, it's not a problem if they call me Christian or Mister. So he seems like, yeah, again, it's similar to Inzaghi in terms of, I think he's not going to be a sergeant, like a Conte type sergeant where you have to call him Mister, or you have to, in Italian, you refer to someone in a different way. In English, you just say you to whether it's an elderly person or a younger person. But in Italian, there's a different way to address a coach. Would be lei, not to tu. So, but Christian Chivu, I think, is more part of this kind of modern mode of managers, which is a bit more, relaxed, and you try to be almost at the level of the players, but still above them, but almost at the level like we know a lot of the players used to stay. Inzaghi is almost like a part of the team, or he's like a brother, older brother to them, or father figure. So I think Chivu says it doesn't really matter to him whether they call him Christian by first name or Mister. And then the interesting question on Mkhitaryan haters, cover your ears, because it looks like our beloved Armenian. Well, I still love him, but of course he's very opinion splitting player in the fan base this season, and quite rightly, I do, because of his age and his performances, I do see where everyone's coming from. But there's a quote of Chivu even from a year ago, before he even got into the Parma job, where he basically says, if I was a coach, Mkhitaryan would always be in my team. So, and now this one, he says, yeah, no, the age doesn't matter on Mkhitaryan. It's the quality, the human quality, and the technique, the ID. This age doesn't matter in football. It's just a number. The way he plays, his professionality, his energy and motivations are always the same. So there's no problem. Yeah, so it looks like it's going to be difficult once again for Sucic, Frattesi, and co to get Mickey out of the team. Then you get a quick question about Monterrey, about the first game. He said, yeah, we studied some video. We know that they changed coach, which might give us some, issues. They will do some changes, which we haven't seen. They play in a positive way, vertically, good individual players. So let's see how that works out when we play them. Then he admitted, yeah, that he asked the as soon as Inter got in touch, he asked Parma for the permission to move to Inter, which was a great deal of honor for him. And then yeah, he had a great relationship with Inzaghi. He says I called him before the Inter call actually came to wish him good luck in Saudi Arabia, but then he said he didn't hear from him afterwards. Yeah, again, he's talking about the journey of the squad. We need to do our best. It's not a failure season. He says, we eliminated Bayern, Barcelona. We won the final. Failure doesn't exist, he says, which some people might disagree with. He says what's important is trying right until the end. And he also mentioned, even when they won the treble before the Champions League final, his biggest fear was losing. So he says it's completely normal. But definitely, hopefully, he can land us some trophies in the coming season. And then they asked him, what are the objectives? Have you talked about it? He said, yeah, we're playing a competition. The season's not over. So we want to take Inter's name to the top of the world. And we're here to do something important. So it's good to hear that, they're going to try and win this competition, I guess, if they can. Again, for me, I would treat it as not too seriously, just because I want our players to be able to rest this summer as well. If we go too far in this competition, guys, I know, it would be for money wise and prestige, maybe be good. But again, if we end up playing up until the end of July, we know already Napoli are starting ahead of us in the grid already as it is, with a proper preseason, Conte as well. So if we don't even end up getting a proper preseason, our players don't even get a proper rest, you already know that our next season is going to be affected already. So I hope we do well, but I really don't want to push these guys' bodies to the edge and then have them back again in a few weeks without proper rest to go again. I'm going to skip this question because it wasn't that interesting. Oh yeah, what are you going to bring to this Inter? He was like, I learn respect, knowledge, character, interismo, this team, this squad. This is what I fell in love with. I have Inter in my heart. You guys then tell me if I'm good or not, but I am going to give everything that I have. So little applause for Christian Chivu on that answer. Beautiful. How do you restart after that Bayern Munich, that Munich final? He says, yeah, it hurts a lot. Again, I was in the 2010 final. All I was thinking was, what if I lose? What if I lose? But I said to the guys, your journey was important. We'll find the energies and motivation to try again. We have the obligation to try again, to be honest. The story of our last few seasons says that. And we have to respect our badge, the competition, all the competition that we play, and keep the bar there. Then he says, yeah, I spoke to Mourinho on the phone. I have respect for Monterrey, Mexican football, how they invest in football. What do you expect from the FIFA Club World Cup? International competitions are unpredictable. They have their own way. Some experienced team aren't scared to play us. Parma proved to be your first impact in Serie A. I tried to give my all to achieve a target. It was great. When you reach the target, everything changes. And then finally, he introduced the staff, which I made a video on the other day. So check it out if you haven't. So confirming our video, basically, Alexander Kolarov is number 2, former Inter player, Serbian under-21 coach most recently. Mario Cecchi, who was the tactical guy for Inzaghi's backroom staff, he remains. That's one question that they didn't ask him, which I hope in the next few days they ask him, like, what is your style of play? What formation are you looking to play? What variations are you looking to play? Always 3-5-2 or 3-4-2-1? Like, yeah, I want to hear more about that. So hopefully in the next few press conferences they can ask him, because, yeah, I want to know more about individual players, the Primavera guys, who he's looking to bring through, what the directors have asked of him. Like, have they asked you to bring in 1 or 2 Primavera guys into the first team or not? Those are the questions I would personally ask. Where do you see Sucic? Which position do you see Sucic in? Where do you see Luis Enrique playing? Moving on, Angelo Palombo, also part of his technical team. We talked about that, former Inter and Sampdoria player. Fitness coach, the new one, stolen from Mourinho's Fenerbahce team. Stefano Rapetti, a return, a guy that worked under us in the treble-winning team. Another new fitness coach, Maurizio Fanchini. Spinelli remains as a goalkeeping coach, and assisting him will be former Inter third goalkeeper Paolo Orlandoni. So yeah, overall, pretty positive. As I said, I like the way he speaks. I like the way he, talks. The way he formulates sentences is more interesting to hear for sure. I think I'm going to tune into more Chivu press conferences than I did to Inzaghi press conferences. But of course, that means nothing if the results are not there. The results need to be there alongside all the other stuff. But anyway, I don't know if you guys had a chance to listen to the press conference. Let me know your thoughts down below. What were your takeaways? What are you expecting from Chivu's Inter and Chivu? Were you impressed? Were you not impressed? Let me know in the comments down below. See you on the next one. Ciao ragazzi. Always, Forza Inter.